Hello viewers, Super GT here. So we're going to take a look at the Forza race regulation system. So this is a public hopper now. It was private, but now anyone can give it a try and see exactly what it's all about. So you get this little notification here, and it is important to point out that this is purely for corner cutting, as you can see there, purely on the grass, and it's not for contact. It's not for smashing people off. It's not for sending people into oblivion. It's purely for cutting the track or extending the track, cutting out sections of the circuit as well. Now, the first place we're going to test this is the best place to test it, and that is Noob City, obviously. This is probably one of the worst circuits for track limits in the game, at least before the system. So let's see exactly how this works as we come into turn one. People have actually been quite clean there. Now, of course, it is kind of a cycle production type lobby, so everyone's in the same car, so there's no worry about tuning or whatever. So you see there, the line goes red when I go past it, as that guy comes flying back on. 3-second penalty there for going wide. Now, yeah, I've turned on the ribbon on the edge of the circuit. I don't normally drive with the ribbon on, but I've turned it on just for the sake of this video so you can see exactly where the edge of the circuit is. This guy is completely abusing the system, but to be fair, that's kind of what this hopper is for, is to just mess around, in a way, just to mess around, to kind of test the system out. But the main thing I really want to test out is, yeah, I want to test out exactly how much penalty I'll get for doing certain things. But at the same time, I want to race closely and see if it's possible to race closely, and does it kind of harm close racing. So here, tiny bit of contact. I did go beyond the line, 3 wheels beyond the line, and you see it said off track, and it was calculating whether or not that was a genuine extension. But I think it decided you kind of got pushed into it, so I didn't get a penalty for that. So that's the kind of thing I want to look at, really, and you just hope that if you're racing closely with someone and it's a good, fair race, that, you know, one of you doesn't get a silly penalty that you shouldn't have done. Now, again, it is important to point out that this is not a final version. This is a beta, or a beta, depending on your pronunciation. So this is not a final version. This isn't, how it's going to be completely, and it will improve from here. And it's important as a beta to give feedback. So there is a link in the description to the Forza forums where you can just give your feedback and just say what you think is good about it, what you think isn't so good about it. I think overall, one of the good things about this kind of system is that, as I cut that corner again, I think one of the good things is that people will try to adjust the way that they drive. So I think a lot of the time before the system came out, not you specifically, but a person, myself included, sometimes you get a little bit lazy on track limits. So you might just cut a little bit, you might just extend a little bit and think, okay, well, it doesn't matter, there's nothing to stop me from doing that. But now you do have to kind of rein in your inhibitions, and you do have to kind of just adjust the way that you drive, just to make sure that you don't go beyond the line. You see there, I've just gone a tiny bit beyond the line. 2-second penalty, which is quite harsh, I think. But at least it's a deterrent in a way. I'm kind of, okay, well, I'm going to get a massive penalty, so I need to make sure I don't kind of drive like that. It is kind of a little bit of a worry, again, that let's say we're in a really close race with someone, and then one of you just does a tiny cut like that, where you really barely gained anything. And sometimes it's quite hard on the controller, because it can be quite fiddly. It can be quite difficult to be, millimetre precise, and sometimes you might just cut almost by accident. See there, like I was really close to the limit, and it could have just gone a tiny bit more, and I could have got a penalty. I suppose you kind of have to drive at sort of 90% and just stay away completely from, well, not completely, but stay away a little bit from the apex. And here, I tried to back off to give this guy space, and I actually inadvertently cut the corner, got a 1-second penalty for that. So total time of 12 seconds. So that's going to be added on to my final race time. And the guy ahead, you can see on the left side of the screen. So the time, not the time gaps, the distance gaps on the left of the screen, it flicks between the distance gaps and the penalties. So the guy in front, the guy behind, both have 2-second penalties. So I'm going to lose out to both of them, of course. And we'll see at the end the new screen. As we cross the line in second, I'm not going to finish second because of that penalty. So the results flash up here. There we go. So I'm actually down to 9th, or no, sorry, 8th. So I've lost 6 positions as a result. Or now, okay, it's actually changing. Okay, I've gone down to 5th. I've lost 3 positions as a result of the extra 13 seconds worth of penalties. So that's kind of a basic look at how it works. Now here, I wanted to go full meme mode and try something very different. I just wanted to go all out. This was the perfect track to try it. Monza with the chicane, but I was going to cut everything and just see if I could win the race, even with loads of penalties. So first corner, it's not going to be a corner because I'm just going to completely disregard it. I'm going to go straight on, and we get an 11-second penalty. Now I'm just wondering, is it possible that I could have gained more than 11 seconds there? I don't know. The game basically calculates. You left the track here. You rejoined it here. How long should it have taken you to get from there to there? And then it'll give you more of a penalty. So let's not forget that the penalty it gives you, it kind of has to be more than what you gained. So if you gained 5 seconds, it needs to give you more than 5 seconds penalty. Otherwise, you're not really being penalised. So the penalty might seem harsh at times, and it definitely indeed does. Sometimes I've just gone a tiny bit wide and you get like a 2-second penalty, even though you definitely didn't gain 2 seconds from it. So that explains why some of the penalties do seem a bit harsh. But I was watching the Forza stream, and they did say that they will be adding more sort of increments to the penalties. So the smallest penalty you can get is 1 second. It all works in batches of seconds, so you can't get like a 0.5. But they will be adding sort of smaller increments like 0.25, a quarter of a second, or half a second penalties. Because I think sometimes you do extend a tiny amount, or you cut a tiny amount by literally 1 pixel, and then it gives you a big penalty. So at this point, 39 seconds worth of penalties, and everyone is about half a lap behind by this point. I'm 4,500 feet in the lead. Come flying through here once again. Lost about 13 seconds this time. So through Curva Grande. Quite a tricky corner when you're flat out going into it, especially in a classic F1 car. I'm coming into the second chicane, which isn't really a chicane anymore, when you start doing that to it, and we get another 8 seconds, so 1 minute worth of penalties, and we just for good measure we'll add another second on there for cutting or extending there. As we come up to the line, no one in sight. I'm about 8,000 feet in the lead. So let's see exactly how this works, shall we? So the fastest lap was 1 minute 46. I think everyone else's was like 2 minutes something. Yeah, like 1 minute 46. My fastest lap was like 20 seconds quicker than everyone else. So eventually I finished so far ahead that everyone DNF'd. I made everyone DNF because I was so far ahead. So that's an abuse of the system for sure. I've won the race. I don't know how it would have gone had everyone finished. I don't know if those penalties. I mean, I gained 20 seconds on most laps, and quite nicely we got a Laguna Seca race for once. So on that race there, I mean, I was gaining 20-second penalties per lap roughly. It was 3 laps. I got 1 minute worth of penalties, but I think I was gaining more than 20 seconds by cutting all of the corners. So there's potential there, and maybe. I think for big, blatant cuts like I was doing, like you just need a much bigger penalty, because I mean it was just so obvious that what I was doing there was just ridiculously over the top. But anyway, that was a kind of a quirky race. Made everyone DNF. I was so far ahead from cutting that I won the race kind of by default. They just had no chance, even with the penalties. Even if I'd got 2 minutes worth of penalties, I was so far ahead that I would have won. So Laguna Seca here in the Porsche. This is a really good combination. Now, just sad that Laguna Seca doesn't really come up all that much in the online races, but it's good to see it here. So I decided to drop back. I mean, I could have finished first place there. I was kind of away in the lead, but I really wanted to test the system in close combat, should we say. I think that's where the system is most likely to kind of falter. Let's say you push someone wide. Are they going to get a penalty? Or maybe you're on the inside of someone, like kind of like that situation there. Let's say you're on the inside of someone, they squeeze you narrow and squeeze you over the line. Are you going to get a penalty? These are the kind of things I kind of wanted to work out. I don't have examples of everything that I wanted to work out, but well, you can just see exactly what example I do have here. We have seen kind of bits where there's been contact, someone goes wide, do you get a penalty for that? I think you don't always get a penalty necessarily if you've been hit wide, which is good, because it is important, of course. You might cut a corner, fair enough, if you're on your own, but someone might push you and you might extend because you've been pushed into it, or you might cut a corner because you've been pushed into it. So there are lots of different situations, and I would say that my experience with the Gran Turismo system, it kind of tells me that it's really difficult to have a system that just works for every situation. It's never going to be completely perfect. It's just so difficult. This guy came flying in and I just was not happy about it, so I just rammed him into the wall pretty much, and just kept my fourth position. But it's going to be really difficult to make one system that kind of works for everything. At least for now, they've broken it down just to say, right, we're just going to work on track limits for now, and then later on we can move on to contact. And contact, I think, is going to be the difficult one. Track limits, I think, could be fairly simple. I mean, the hard part again is just when there's contact involved. Were you pushed into it? Weren't you pushed into it? That's the kind of hard part. But another thing might be a penalty for avoiding an incident. I did quite a lot of races here, but I didn't really have an example where, let's say, someone spins and they're blocking the track right in front of you. You have to make a quick decision. Okay, I'll go to that side, and then you just happen to go off the track to go past. So would you get a penalty for that? That's the kind of thing that we need to kind of work out. And remember, if you do have an example, then do post it in the Forza forums as feedback, just so that they can kind of understand it. Now, a bit of Peggy 18 love going on here. These Renaults in the background, beginning the mating process. They're just so excited for this system, obviously. Now, I just wanted to quickly point out that as part of this, they've removed all the tyre wall. So there's this horrible tyre wall coming out of this turn before, which I just never agreed with its placement. But because you get penalised now for track limits, there doesn't need to be any tyre walls. So there is that. That's something to take note of course. Okay, what else is there? Okay, so at the back here, starting on pole. So again, I just wanted to test out the system in sort of close quarters combat, as it's kind of more interesting. Another addition is kind of unrelated, but ghosting back markers is apparently coming in May. So our quest to not get rammed by a dodgy back marker might finally be over next month. Good news. Good news for everyone. Front runners putting their arms up in acrimonious joy right now at the principle or the idea that they won't get rammed off by a back marker any longer. Good news. Okay, what else is on my list here? Not too much. I think we kind of covered everything. I do like the addition of the system. I think it is something that does need to be added. The hard thing is that this game is so... I mean, it's really... It can get really aggressive in the midfield. It can get really messy. And I just hope this kind of system just cleans up people's driving a little bit. It won't necessarily clean up, you know, the contact, because it's not a penalty system for contact. It's just for track limits. But at least people try to stay on here. You see here, through the first corner, most people would always try to extend that, myself included. But now people just trying to be a little bit more careful with the track limits, which is good. It's good to see that people have kind of adjusted. And even though the penalties might be a little bit harsh, on the harsh side, I think, at least for now, it just acts as a deterrent. So you get harsh penalties, okay, so just rein in the way that you drive. Just change the way you drive a little bit. There's loads of contact here. The only worry is that you don't want it to be a case where you can't race flat out for fear of getting a penalty. So I think on Gran Turismo, okay, there's a big penalty system, you get lots of penalties, but I feel as though I can race at full speed and not worry about it too much. But on here, I think it's a little bit harder, especially because most of us are on controllers. It can be quite fiddly, trying to really push everything to the limit and avoid the penalties. I think it might be easier on this game as with the system the way it is, to kind of just drive at 90% and just go nowhere, not nowhere near, but just don't go quite as close to the apexes. Just avoid trouble, avoid contact, and then just win races because you didn't get as many penalties as the people in front of you. So I hope it doesn't do that too much. I hope that it doesn't diminish the way that you have to drive, so people just start driving away from 100% because they just fear getting a penalty. I hope it doesn't really do that. So a minor cut there, 3 seconds added, and that was kind of a weird situation. I was unsure of what that guy was going to do going into that turn, so I kind of gave him more space, but then I got a penalty because I was trying to give more space. So it's kind of a weird situation there, but I think overall it's a positive addition. It just needs a little bit of tweaking at the moment, and hopefully it will be working a lot better soon. I was just wondering about Forza Racing Championship as well, because that hasn't been announced yet for this year, and normally by this point of the year we would have had our first event. 2018 we had our first event in March, 2017 we had our first event in the middle of April, so we've had it all by now. But I think for Forza Racing Championship they're kind of waiting for the system to work properly and then they're going to announce it, so we might not see something until the middle or the later ends of the year. But that is pretty much the end of the video. Kind of a different one, just looking at this new system. I want to know your thoughts, let me know what you think about it, what is good about it, what isn't so good about it, and of course give your feedback on that link. But that is all from me. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, or, well, don't subscribe, just at least consider subscribing. Then if you want to, then do it. And if you don't want to, then don't. It's a really simple equation, really, isn't it? But there we go. I do thank you so much for watching. I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.